Hey guys, Willie at Venom Central. Today we're doing some eyelash viper maintenance. I got to feed some things and clean a few things and split up some pairs, and we're going to hit on in depth on eyelash viper care and some of my breeding techniques and some of my baby techniques, and also some really cool information on eyelash viper venom that y'all probably didn't realize. So hang in there and let's get busy. Okay guys, the first thing we're going to feed today is this big gravid female eyelash, and let's make her stretch out for it a little bit. These things got to stretch on them, man. They can reach out a long way and pop something. Oh, nice strike, girl. That was awesome. All right, way to go, baby girl. Now, what's interesting about Bothrikes, Bothrops, the difference. Literally, I mean, we've been calling, I still call them Bothrops schlegeli, which they're not. They are Bothrops, but you know, some years ago they were moved into the Bothrikes genera. So, and what separates that is literally your arboreal Bothrops and your terrestrial Bothrops. Now, arboreal Bothrops, only the ones with a prehensile tail are moved into Bothrikes, like your schlegelii here. So it's Bothrikes, schlegelii. But I'm old school. I mean, I learned this when I was very young and it was all Bothrops, so I still call them Bothrops, but the true name is Bothrikes, schlegelii. But also what separates the schlegs out, which is kind of cool, is the structure of their heat-seeking pits is a little bit different too. They actually have a little mechanism which allows them to decipher range and heat at the same time. And that's why they're so damn accurate when they strike. I mean, these things can grab a bat out of the mid-air. I mean, even hummingbirds, they're actually pretty damn accurate on what they're doing. I mean, I rarely see one miss. Once in a blue moon, one might miss, and it's because it picked up a heat signature off of something else instead of the prey item. But now we're feeding her up because we got to move her out of here. This is Romeo's cage. This is the 6-foot cage that I built for one of my males, and we pop females in there with him periodically during breeding season. But she's bred, she's gravid, she looks really good. She's already starting to show, and we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about breeding a little bit, but we're going to let her go ahead and eat her mouse, and we're going to continue with this video. So hang in there, guys. Don't leave. We got a lot of cool stuff coming. She was accurate, wasn't she? But I've got to clean and flush all the little baby tubs out today, and I'm going to show you guys how I do these babies, and we're going to feed a couple of them for you too. But some interesting stuff about schlegs, and what's really cool is that, you know, everybody thinks like they're just a mild venomous snake, and in some rights they are, but you know, with that venom being mainly hemotoxic, which is hemorrhagic, causes, you know, bloodstream stuff. But what they've discovered here in the past several years is that there's been an ontogenic change in their venom from baby schlegs growing into adults. Now what's happening with them is in some ranges, and now the guys that are doing these studies, they're kind of going back and forth at this. There's like 3 or 4 different articles, and they started in 2018 all the way up until right now. And I've been reading these articles and following these boys that are doing this study. But let me tell you something. This change from baby venom, because babies are preying on a different food source than the adults. So, you know, babies are eating a lot of frogs and small, you know, reptilian prey, you know. So their venom is staying at one certain level, but the adults are actually metamorphosizing their venom into a change where it's hotter to subdue mammalian prey, bats, rodents, different things like that. But what's cool is they've just realized that they've found, we think that the schlegs ain't that hot, but in certain regions they found that some Bothrops, Bothrikes, schlegelii, are literally carrying a little bit of a damn neurotoxin component in their venom. I mean, because it's causing cardiovascular failure. It's you know, central nervous system stuff, and that's rare to find. I mean, and it's only in certain pockets of these schlegs where they're studying them. And so they're a little hotter than we think they are. So, I mean, you don't hear a lot about people dying from eyelash viper bites. But I mean, I read something several years back about a lady in I think it was Ecuador. She died within 2 hours of a schlag bite. She was bitten on the tongue. I don't know how that happened, or I was reading the article. Maybe the translation from the article meant she was bitten on the lip, but the way I understood it, it was tongue. But anyways, maybe she was kissing it. I don't know, but it ain't funny. But she died within 2 hours of a schlag bite. Now, was that schlag one of these ones that carries that damn neurotoxic component in its venom also? Now, this ain't me just talking shit. I'm telling you, there's articles to back this up. Scientific journal articles that back this up. We're going to pop the links to these articles in here. So you guys who keep schlags and you're working with schlags, read this. This is cool. That they're actually a little bit hotter than we think they are. So be careful with them damn things. And you can see the reach on them. I mean, they got a reach, But Bothrikes, just cool. I mean, prehensile tail, Bothrops. Basically, that's what that falls under. But the venom, different from babies to adults, and different from region to region, different from locale. So there's a lot that they're learning about Bothrops now, and Bothrops schleglii venom, and Bothrikes, and all of that. They're studying all of the Bothrops and Bothrikes in intensive. It's really intense now to study what's going on with all this stuff, because they're finding a bunch of new stuff about them. And I try to stay up on it. I read as much as I can. Every new article that comes out in the scientific journals, I'm on it, reading it, trying to learn it. But anyways, I'm going to show you guys how I run through and take care of my little baby ones. And then we're going to talk a little bit about captive care and breeding. Okay, guys, ultimately when you're keeping schlags, I mean, you ultimately want to breed them. I mean, that's what every snake enthusiast wants to do. And that's what I do. I mean, I breed schlags every year. I produce a bunch of them. And actually this year, I bred a bunch of them this year. And my breeding season is over. And now it's just the wait for the mamas to drop the babies, which their gestation usually goes 5-6 months. I've had them go as long as 7 months. But we start getting babies around Thanksgiving. So that's when babies start popping over here at Venom Central with the schlags. But now these are still from last year's. These are just ones I have left over from last year that I'm waiting to get rid of, waiting to ship out as soon as Delta opens back up. But now keeping schlags, I raise babies in these little containers, these little peanut containers. And now I custom make these myself. And I mean, they're actually really sturdy. And if you watch some of my past eyelash viper videos, I showed you these things. And I do the lids, I cut them out and I screen them, okay? I just kind of hot glue them in there, weld them to it, We use a little mesh fence, you know what I mean, with a little bit of greenery on it. But now here's the trick, because I raise baby schlags over water. For the first year, I leave them over water. Now, and I even burn holes all along these things. I mean, ventilation. I can't stress this enough. Ventilation is key, and humidity. And it's hard to hold humidity with ventilation, because your water dissipates and everything. So raising them over water helps. It keeps good humidity on them, and you got good ventilation with the screen lid and all the holes. Now, if you'll notice, now I'm doing this because somebody asked me, to go, well, how in the hell you put water in there when you got holes burnt in the bottom? Okay, they only need maybe a ½ inch of water, not even, just a little bit of water in the bottom. And I change this water every 3 days. So instead of having to take everything apart, take the snake out, stress it, handle it, the water gets changed every 3 days, and I got a system to do this, okay? But they get disinfected. If they defecate in the bottom, when they do that, then you disinfect the whole unit out. Take everything apart, disinfect it, start fresh. But while I'm doing water changes every 3 days, this is why I put the holes in the bottom. And we're going to feed a couple of these little guys today too, okay? Like this. You can see my water's in there, all right? And it's still clean. He hasn't defecated in it, You see the little schlag right there, okay? Now you look here at my bucket, all right? See, I can just drain these right out, all right? Without having to take the snake out and do all that. and molest it and bother it and stress it out and hook it, and because little schlegs hang on with that prehensile tail. And then what I do is, if I want to flush it a little bit, okay, I keep a jug of water in here, so it's always the same temperature as their water. It's always room temperature, so you're not flushing it with warm water or cold water, you know. So let me get my hands on this the right way. Here we go. All right. See, and I just pour it right in the center. Pour some in there. Shake it around a little bit. Flush them out. But sometimes you'll get a little bit of film in there or some dust, you know. So I flush them a few times. It's not hurting a snake if you get them a little wet. Now he's got a nice clean container. He'll get popped back there, and then we'll go through and feed them all. And I'll do that to every one of them, okay? It just makes it quick and simple. And when you got as many snakes as I've got, you kind of devise ways to do things fast. You got to try to manage your time with over 200 animals. And if I find one that they've defecated in there, then I'll take everything apart and sanitize it, you know. But just flush them out, put fresh water every 3 days. Fresh water is important with schlegs. You know, and a lot of guys, I see a lot of guys keep schlegs and they're spraying them all the time. They're keeping them wet, and they're under that impression that, okay, they're from the rainforest and they're drinking off their bodies. I watch these babies go right down to the floor and drink. I watch my adults go right to their water bowl and drink. They don't live in the water. Yeah, they get rained on and they're in a rainforest, but they stay dry. They're up off the ground, you know. And if you keep them too wet, you'll see, you're going to ruin them. They will get sick. They don't do good wet all the time. Ventilation and humidity is key. Let me rinse this little guy out. And he's nice and clean still. Okay, I'm going to burn through the rest of these, and then what we're going to do is I actually take them away from here, from their lights. Now, this light, I don't leave a light on them at this stage in their life. They just stay, they get the ambient light from the room, but that's just so I can see. That's what this light goes on and off for. But let me tell you, we're going to set some of these up, and I feed these on top of another cage. I just line them up and feed them assembly line style. Pop the lids off and just start popping pinkies into them. I feed them all real quick and then I bring them back, and then I put the water in with them. And what I do is I try to use spring water if I can find good spring water for the babies. I mean, it doesn't hurt them to use tap water, but in my mind, using that chlorinated water, city water, or, you know, stuff like that, I try to give them the best that I can give them. So I'll use purified water, bottles of water, you know what I mean? But we're going to feed some. We're actually going to feed them all. But we'll film a couple of them for you, and just to show you how aggressive they are. And they're little stinkers, let me tell you. They're at that stage in their life where they're destroying everything. And getting them to that point it's tedious work, but we got a few secrets. But I tell you, we're going to feed some, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to water them, and we're going to move on. I'm going to show you guys some other eyelash wipers. Okay guys, now that we've flushed out their little peanut containers, we're going to go ahead and feed them. And I just line them up and do it assembly line style, you know, and then we put their water back in after everybody's fed. But I'll show you how we do that too. But I'm out of my small pinky mice. We're waiting for Rodent Pro, but I got lucky and a couple of my mice breeders dropped some pinkies, so we got pinkies. So I'm going to show you this is the ultimate goal with baby schlegs. Is you want them, now these guys that eat frozen thaw, they'll eat anything, is you want them to be aggressive little feeders and just snatch food. He's locking on, here he comes. Oh, sometimes you gotta, oh. Hey, you missed it, buddy, there you go. Now you got it, there you go. And you can see he grabbed it without hesitation. And now this is the first time I've ever fed them live. But and then what I do is I kind of step back and go ahead and slide their little lid on top of them real gently like that, and just move on to the next one. Okay, then what I do is I just move along and keep feeding. Let's get this little squirt to grab one. Oh, he grabbed it. He's got it. You can see he drilled it and he's hanging on to it. Actually, that looks like it's going to be a little female. But you got to be efficient when you're raising snakes, especially when you got as many as I do and you have as many babies as I do. So that's why we do it this way, just to knock them out and get everybody fed and clean. And we do all, everything in like one fell swoop, But just to show you how we feed the little Schlegs. Now I'm going to burn through the rest of them here real quick. Alright, and let's get this one. This one's actually in blue a little bit. Oh, he bit it. You got to hang on to it, buddy. There he goes. He got it. Our leaf's in the way. Oh, he didn't like that. He'll grab it again. They're still a little skittish. And the idea is to get them to grab it and hang on to it. Like that. And this is the first time they've ever had live, and the first time I put these bright lights on them. But these guys are thriving. They're doing really well. And they'll go out to their new homes here pretty shortly, as soon as we can ship. But okay, we're going to move on and do something different. Now that we've fed all them little squirts, some of them are pretty ferocious, ain't they? But we flush, disinfect if needed, feed, then water. And I always do this all together, So, and I'll use bottled water. I use purified water. If I can find spring water, I'll use spring water. But I flush and clean with room temperature water, and then I put good water in with them. And let me tell you something. When there was a water shortage, nobody could find bottled water. I was gangstering people at the damn store over cases of water. I was like, you don't understand, my snakes need water. People look at me like I'm crazy. But anyways, only the best for my animals. But anyway, so then I just go ahead and I fill up their little containers. And I bring it right to the bottom of their little vent holes there. Just right to the bottom of it. And that's all they need. That's all they need. It's about a half an inch of water in the bottom of that. And I do this every 3 days, clean fresh water, and flush them every 3 days. And I'm feeding these little guys. They're getting it about once a week right now. And as they grow and get bigger, it will get pushed back. They'll get fed maybe every 10 days, every 14 days. As they get bigger and put some size on, Schlegs slow down. They don't just keep eating once a week. If you feed them once a week, you're gonna kill them. I mean, my adults, literally my adult males might eat 8-10 times a year. That's it. The males. The females will eat a little more. But I need one more bottle of water. Where's my other bottle? There. But anyways, now ultimately, let me fill you up here, buddy. There you go. Ultimately, misting Schlegs. Now, there is a time for that. And I will mist Schlegs during the breeding season. Okay, now I don't soak them down and spray them. I take their temperatures lower than normal. I'll take them down into like the 60s at night, and then it'll get back up into the mid 70s during the day. But right before dark, I start spraying them. I just give the cages, their little units, just a little mist. I don't soak the snake down. I just jack up that humidity, just like it was a rain, because their breeding cycle sets on the rainy seasons down there, and I believe that it does that for a reason, because that's when all of the tadpoles and stuff and all of the things start metamorphosizing. After it coincides with prey items for the babies, because the babies are micro and they're eating little tiny frogs and different kind of little amphibians. So after the rainy seasons, all the frogs start laying eggs and the tadpoles, everything more metamorphosized. By the time these guys have their babies, everything's at the right schedule and the right time. Baby frogs are hatching out, you know, to the right time that baby schlegs are being born. So there's food source for them. And let me tell you what's interesting. I read a damn article, and of course I read a lot, but an article about schlegs holding sperm for up to 35 months. That's incredible. 35 months retaining sperm. I mean, when mine breed, I get babies like 6 months later, 5 to 6 months later, but I mean, I've never had them like breed and have babies a year later or 2 years later. They always pretty much on schedule. But that's crazy. 35 months. That's a long time. But, all right, quick and easy. That's the key. Quick and easy. And safe. But I'm going to show you guys a couple of other eyelash vipers, a couple of the color forms that I bred this year. And I've got gravid females everywhere right now. I've got 4 females that went this year. This big one that we just fed, and she's going to get moved. I got to take her out of here and put her into her big exhibit. She's going to go in here, and then I'll put Romeo back in his home. And I got to pull him out when I'm feeding her, because anything that moves after she's got the scent of a mouse, she's going to bite it. And she's big enough, she'll just eat his ass. So, but she's going to get pulled out. She's bred, she's fed, she's good. She's going to get put in here. And we'll put Romeo back in his palace. And I want to show you guys a couple different color phases of schlegs. Okay, now we just extracted this adult female out of the big exhibit. And she's done with her mouse. And we're going to put her in her own cage now, because she's done breeding, so I wanted to feed her before I moved her. And you can see her, she's a beautiful green. She's kind of got these red tiger bars on her. You can see that little mouse in her right there, so we're going to be real gentle with her. And this snake copulated, let me see, what's my date up there? It copulated on 2/29/20. So she's a couple months along. She's starting to get heavy in the back end there. But we're going to let her slip into her unit right here, nice and gentle. So she's got a nice big private place to have her babies this year. And this little girl gave us some babies last year. She gave us a nice clutch last year. All right, girl, get in there. There you go. Now, what I will do with adults, especially gravid females, I've noticed that gravid females tend to go high. And I believe it's because they're trying to get a little bit warmer, because they're cooking babies. So I'll give gravid females a light, okay? I keep lights on all my adults. And literally, these are just little, they're like these little 7-watt light bulbs, little night light things. But they generate just a little bit of warmth. And you'll notice that a lot of the gravid females, they're going to perch up right under them lights. After they breed, they'll stay under them little lights. They'll get up high. And if your eyelash are going to the ground and staying to the ground, I mean, they do it in the wild and they'll do it in captivity. But if they're staying to the ground 90% of the time, they're too warm. They're too warm. I mean, we keep this room cool. This room stays pretty cool. It's 75 to 77 degrees in here at all times. And with a really high humidity. That's why I don't spray my eyelash vipers. I don't soak them down. They don't need to drink off their bodies and off their leaves, which they will, but they don't need that. If you keep them wet, you're going to ruin them. They will go drink out of a damn water bowl. They do it all the time. The only time I actually start misting my schlegs is during the breeding season. That's when I'll start giving them a slight mist every other day. Not every day. I'll mist them. I'll let it dry up a day or two. I'll mist them again. And I'll mist the inside walls of whatever I got them in. If it's in a bigger cage or if it's in a 10-gallon tank. 10-gallon tanks are great for adults. That's all they need. I mean, that's plenty of space for an adult schleg. But during the breeding season, that's it. And then I let them stay dry. But this room's got the good humidity. Humidity is important. And fresh air. When I get cold, rainy nights, my window's open and the fans are in the windows, blowing that cold air in here. Cold, humid, clean air. Air quality is important with all of that stuff. So we've got her back in her cage. Can you see her in there, Dee? And that's her new setup. And she'll stay there until she has her babies. And now we can go over and get Romeo and put him back in his palace. Okay guys, now we can put this adult male back, and he's been a busy boy this season. He's bred a couple of females this year. Alright buddy, he's starting to gape at me a little bit. What's cool is eyelash vipers will gape. They will display kind of like a moccasin does. They'll gape and hold their mouth open and shake their head at you. Oh, let's see if he does it. Oh. There we go. Alright. And that's one of our breeder males. I call him Romeo because he's a breeder. He is a good little breeder. Now this is an Oriple. This is what they call an Oriple. This is the gold phase eyelash viper. And now males will always be smaller. They're tiny compared to the females. The females get big. I mean, big for an eyelash viper. I mean, they dwarf the males. I mean, males are always a quarter of the size of the females. That's what it seems like anyways. But let's put this guy back. Now he can go back into his exhibit. And that's his home. And now, mind you, I can house probably several eyelash vipers in this. And sometimes I do. During breeding season, he stays in there. He's in there. This is his house. He stays there all the time. But I'll put females in there with him periodically at different times of the year. But during the heavy breeding season, I'll put 2 females in there with him. And they'll be in there for a couple of months, okay? And literally, he'll probably breed them both, but he'll concentrate on one. And then after I see that copulation with one, and I've confirmed it, I'll pull her out and leave the second one in there, and then he'll move on to the second one. It's got a lot to do with smell. They kind of pick which female they want by smell. But what's interesting is that, you know, if you're going to keep schlegs together, don't keep 2 males together. Males don't do good together. If you leave 2 males together in a cage with a female, sooner or later one of the males is just going to roll dead. And it's because they are territorial as hell. And you may not visually see it in the beginning, but believe me, when the lights go off is when they get active. Schlegs during the day, they'll perch up somewhere if they decide to go to the ground, or if they use a hiding place that is up off the ground. They'll hide during the day. They'll try to stay out of the light, and they'll perch up in an area where they feel concealed. But when the lights go off, then they're out. They're out moving around. They're out hunting, or they come out to their hunt spot. I mean, like this guy, he's got one area he'll go to during the day. He'll go down low right there, and he'll stay in a little cut in this big log. Then at night, he goes to the same spot every night. He comes all the way up top, and he sits right up there. I mean, that's his routine. I mean, it's like clockwork. When these lights go off, he's up top. During the day, he moves down there. He doesn't go to the ground. He goes right there. And there's actually a hole behind this log. He gets in that, and that's where he stays during the day. Nighttime, he comes up. And I think that's what they do in the wild. I think they've got their areas where they conceal themselves. Then at nighttime, they come out and get in their little perch, their little favorite hunting spot. And they'll move around quite a bit. If they're really hungry, they'll tell you. I mean, if you see schlegs moving around, I mean, being really active, they're hungry, or they're searching for mates. It's males that are looking for females, because normally they're in 1 or 2 spots. So if you see that activity, they're hungry or they're looking for mates. So we're going to move on, and I've got a couple more gravid females that need fresh water, and they need their little cages cleaned. So I'm going to pull them out and show them to you while I'm cleaning their cages. Okay guys, I'm buzzing through, and I'm cleaning some of my adults. And if you pan around here, you'll see we've got a bunch of them. We've got them stacked up everywhere. But this is another male. This is a yellow tiger male. This is what we call the tiger morph of eyelash viper. And I just cleaned his his little exhibit out real good. And you notice I'll keep my adults on mulch, and when I clean them, and I clean water, you know, and I'll fluff the mulch and I'll give it a little mist, just a little mist, and I'll mist the walls of the cage, and I'll only do that maybe once every couple of weeks, like mist the cage up, unless it's breeding season, unless it's that time of the year when they need to get misted for the rainy season. But the rest of the year they stay dry, you know, and temps for Schlegs, I mean 75, 77 degrees, that's all they need. And they don't really utilize a hot spot a whole bunch, but I do give gravid females a little hot spot. I'll give them just a few degrees warmer, and they'll utilize it. They'll get up there. And gravid females will tend to go high. But this little male, I just cleaned his thing up real quick. And now, this guy is also, he's another great little breeder. And I bred him to one of my one of my green females this year. Now this is what we call a tiger. This is a yellow tiger. And if you'll notice, he's giving me a hard time, ain't he? There you go, buddy. I'll get you on the hook. He's got these like tiger barbs on him. And they're really a unique color. They're kind of like this pewter color. They're not black. But he's a gorgeous little specimen. And now this snake just reached sexual maturity this year. So I bred him for the first time this year to one of my Christmas tree adult females. But so we're hoping to get some really cool babies out of him. And what's cool about Schlegs is that they're polychromatic. And what that means is they can be all kinds of different colors. I mean, they can be yellow, they can be green, they can be red, they can have all kind of different crazy patterns and spots and blotches. I mean, they can be anything. And what's neat about it is you don't have to have a yellow one to produce yellow babies. They can be all in one litter and be all different colors. So you never know what you're going to get. And the thing with Schlegs is that the adults versus the babies, when you get the babies, you think, well, that one's not yellow, that one's not this pretty. They change. I mean, the babies change. They take about 2 years to actually metamorphosize into their true color, what they're going to be. So you never know what you're going to get with them because they change drastically. Like this little guy, he was kind of like a little bland yellow, and he had them little spots on him, and he turned into this. He turned into this beautiful tiger phase snake. There you go, buddy. And let's let him up. And we're gonna pop him back up, and I need to pull down that gravid female. She needs to be cleaned. There we go. He's good. And this one needs to be cleaned. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and pull her and put her in a bucket. You guys get a look at her. Now this snake bred on 314. And actually this snake I bred with that little yellow tiger male that I just showed you. But we don't know what we'll get. I mean, we may get some green ones. We may get a red one in the mix. And the thing with the red ones is, you never know if it's going to be a red snake. Because I made the mistake a few years ago of producing a litter of eyelash vipers, and they all came out this kind of crappy little brown. And I was like, ah, man, I just sold them cheap. I was like, why did I do that? Because guys were showing me a couple of years later, check this out. And I learned my lesson. That don't judge a baby by the way it looks, because it's going to change. And I'm going to show you a red one that I produced a couple years ago, and now I hang on to the red ones because they're hard to get. But anyways, you know, if you end up getting some Schlegs and you don't like the colors of baby, be patient because they're going to change into something cool. And what's neat about Schlegs is, you know, there's, like I said, they're so variable. But there's a cool little subspecies of Schleg. It's called Superciliaris, and it's endemic to Costa Rica. And it's actually it's terrestrial and arboreal, and it's Schleg. It looks just like a Schleg. I mean, they get a little bit bigger, but they look different. They're actually the blotched palm viper, but they're really neat. They're really hard to get. I've seen a few in my lifetime. My partner Matt, he's imported a couple of them, but they got nice big blotches on them, and they're really vibrant, and they get a little bit bigger than a Schlage, I think, too. But Superciliaris, cool snake. It's actually a subspecies of Schlage. All right, big girl. Come on, sweetie. That prehensile tail, they're really hard. They grab a hold of something, and you don't want to pull on and hurt them. But she is, that's already looking like a gravid little mama. She's already gained some weight. But that is a little stunner. It's amazing how much bigger the females are than the males. Even the head size. The head on the females is massive. Females' heads get really big and bulky. But she is a beautiful specimen. And this snake, when it was born, I produced this animal. When it was born, it was just like kind of this crappy little green looking thing with these little like blotches on it. But look at what it's turned into. I mean, it's got beautiful red spots on it and pink spots on it. And just in the past year, it's getting these big red spots on its head. But this snake just turned 4 years old. So I decided to breed her this year. But we'll get some babies out of her this year. And I'll tell you, if you breed Schlages too young, this is what happens. I mean, you look at them when they're 2 years old, and they can be this big at 2 years old, and you're going to think, well, hell, that snake's big enough to breed. And you go ahead and start pairing them up, and they will breed. And they may become gravid, but what happens is the females are still a little bit immature, and you'll get a small litter, and from then on there forward, every litter is going to be small. That's why you'll wait until they're mature. Even though they can breed at an earlier age, give them till they're at least 4 years old. Because I made that mistake also breeding Schlages. Try to breed them at 3, and you'll get a litter of maybe 4, 6 babies. And then for the rest of their lives, that's what they do. They throw 4, 6, maybe 8 babies. You wait till they're 4 or 5 years old, and then breed them. You get big litters. You get, 10, 12, even 20. But this is one of my favorite green ones. We're going to put her in the bucket. Get in there, little girl. And I'm going to go ahead and clean her cage. Okay, guys. I'm just putting her thing back together here. I got her a fresh water. And I'm going to show you just how I mist my Schlage things. Now, I do this when I clean them. I give the substrate a little bit of a mist. And I'll just go ahead and that's it. I'll mist the back walls. I'll mist a little bit of the substrate in there. And I've already went through and picked all the feces out and fluffed their mulch. But that's it. And I'll do that maybe once every couple weeks. Basically, I keep them dry. You don't want to spray them and keep them wet all the time. You only want to do that misting thing during the breeding season. Which the breeding season starts in these things, I'm going to tell you, December. December is when they start getting active. And I've got the temperatures a little cooler, 60s at night, back up to the mid-70s during the day. But December, January, February, March is usually when it starts getting busy with eyelash vipers. All right, come here, little girl. And when we look at that little gem, give us some babies this year. I decided to go ahead and breed several females this year because literally I have got such a demand for them. I've got a list. I mean, literally, probably there's 50 people on the list that want eyelash from me from this season. So we're going to try to fill it. We're going to try to fill it because there's not a lot of guys importing them. There's not a lot of guys breeding them here in the U.S. anyways, and they're getting harder and harder to get. And I've seen some prices on some that I've seen for sale, and I mean, they're wanting a lot of money for them now. All right, I've got one more female I got to clean. I'm gonna pull her down, and this is another big gravid female in there. Let's pull her down. And this is one of my red females. Now, I didn't breed this female this year because she's only 3. She's only 3 years old. So to me, she's probably big enough and she probably could reproduce, but I'm not going to rush her. I'm not going to go ahead and just rush her just to try to produce more babies. I want her to be healthy and be at the right size and the right age before I decide to let her reproduce. There we go. Now that is a stunner. That is an absolutely gorgeous eyelash viper. Look at the belly on this thing. Isn't that amazing? I don't know how this color is going to translate, but she's this really neat little like pink red hues to her, but she's really cool. This is one of my favorite ones, and I've got 2 of them like this that I held back from a previous breeding from a couple years ago. Actually, well, 3 years ago. She's 3 this year, but that's a beautiful eyelash viper. Can you get a close up on her head, babe? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and clean her out real quick, and we're gonna put her back. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and put this little girl back. But that's one of the favorite ones that I've ever produced. One of my personal favorites. And I gave her cage a little mist, just for a little bit extra humidity for tonight. Nobody gaped at us tonight. Usually when I'm running through cleaning and doing stuff, they're all gaping, and they all behaved tonight. I wanted to gape in front of the camera so people can see what they look like gaping. Because they'll gape just like a moccasin. It's pretty wicked. But maybe we can pop a picture in there of one of them gaping. I got a picture of one of my red males gaping. We'll pop it in there for you guys. But okay guys, just to sum it up, schlags, cool snake. We didn't realize just how venomous they are. They can actually be a little more dangerous than we think. They're easy to keep if you keep them cool, keep them nice humidity, keep them clean. Don't overfeed them. You feed them too much, you ruin them. I mean, as adults, 10, 12 mice a year is all they need. Babies can get fed more because they're growing. And if you guys got any questions, leave it in the comment section. And come on back and check out Venom Central. This is Willie checking out. Later.